Thank you both for coming to talk to me.
Yeah,
Lovely
thank
to
you.
meet you.
you.
Now, I want to make my life a little bit difficult for myself, and I'm going to cut in lots of images.
Okay.
And I want you to talk to me about the things I'm going to cut in. I want to talk about the visuals of this film a little bit. Let's start with the new designs for Mike and Sully. Be as specific as you can. What have you kept? What have you changed? And why?
Yeah, I mean, the big trick was making them younger, and as Ricky Nerva, our production designer, said, how do you make an eyeball look 18? There's not a lot to work with there. But the I think the big thing we realized early on was, in looking at pictures of ourselves in college, we were all thinner. So we thinned up the characters, we made them brighter in color. Sully is not bulked up to be the big scare we know him as, so his shoulders are not as big.
Right.
It's all dialed into very subtle things, but
we added a retainer to Mike just to give him kind of a youthful look.
Yeah, Sully has a little bit of a hairdo.
Yeah.
John Lasseter called that the hook. He's like, we were doing such subtle things. John said, you really need something a little bigger. So the retainer and the hair were kind of just something that you can recognize right off the bat.
But come on, let's scale down to those subtle things that people aren't going to see unless you tell me what they are.
Yeah. Mike's eye size, the ratio between his pupil and the iris.
Yeah.
We spent a ton of time on that. Things that very, very subtle differences. We noodled it until we felt it was just right, and it's subtle, but I think it makes a difference in the end.
Our hope was that when you see them without looking at the Monsters Inc. characters next to them, you recognize them right away.
Yeah.
But that when you see them next to the Monsters Inc. characters, there's a pretty big difference. When I look at the Monsters Inc. characters now, I go, oh my God, they're so fat and gray. That was a rough 10 years. But that was kind of our hope in designing them.
And it's 10 years, we're saying, is it?
10,
That's
15.
officially...
I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's more like 15.
Yeah.
And now there's some new characters as well. I'm interested particularly in Johnny Worthington, because as soon as we see him, we get something off of him. Tell me about his look and his body and why it's that way.
Yeah, we took a while to figure out what Johnny should be, other than just a big scary monster. Sully's a big scary monster, and it was more of a writing choice we made of like, he should be upper crust. He should have something even over Sully. He should be privileged and blue blood and that type of thing. And so we talked about this idea of the jaw, this sort of jetting out jaw thing. And then we thought, well, that's great in the monster world. You could give him big fangs to go with it so that he wouldn't just be, this sort of rich kid, high society guy. He would also be terrifying as well.
Right.
That was a big hook. And then
his body shape.
Right.
It's so amazing. He's got these hugely broad shoulders and then this tiny little waist and short legs.
Yeah. We gave him the big horns. We wanted him to be intimidating. We wanted him to be still a formidable up against Sully.
Yeah.
And then his fur was designed to look like a horse, like a stallion. We figured if he really is this, sort of perfect specimen, that the idea of making him a stallion literally was a fun idea to play with. And we didn't have any other characters with fur, that shiny fur like that, in the monster world before him.
Now, as you're going through this process and you're designing these characters, it's done with a pencil, first of all, I assume.
Yeah.
Were there ever any pencil animation tests done here? Because I know, for example, Disney do that on some of their stuff. Or was this...
It's interesting. There wasn't, but... some of the animators would actually do some of their very rough blocking by drawing on their Cintiq screens. So it was really cool. You'd see the 3D background, but then their rough ideas would be two-dimensionally drawn over top of that. Right. And then they would do their blocking in 3D after that. But yeah, a handful of them did that.
Yeah.
Dan, I think you and I might end up seeing the same therapist soon, because there's a young lady in this film, Claire, is she called?
She's the president of the Greek Council.
Now, we were talking about her earlier, weren't we? And, I feel awkward saying this now on my camera, but there's something attractive about this.
I don't know. Yes, I know. And I discussed, as we were animating the film, and animators were making choices on her, I thought, I'm strangely attracted to her. I don't know what it is. I think in college, I liked the mean girls, the sort of punk girls that they were meaner. They didn't have time for you.
Did you try to work appeal into her build, or
we tried to work appeal into everybody's build? But she's also really tough, and she's the president of the whole Greek council. she's like got power, but she doesn't care. It's like the perfect college crush.
So now we've got to wrap up. I'm running out of time. So let's talk generally about the general look of the thing. And one of the things I think is the palette works, but there are so many colours.
Yeah.
How do you get that right? And you know, is there a theory here? Is there a scheme that you're
Yeah, I
thinking?
mean, we think about it a lot. Dice Tatsuni, who was sort of our art director for color, thinks about all that stuff. And we wanted to keep that sort of candy color look of Monsters, Inc. in this world, alive in this world. So it's a delicate balance that he and Ricky Nerva and are constantly looking at, myself, to balance out all those colors. You know, the idea behind the first film was that these monsters would look like the drawings little kids did, you know, what they do with their box of crayons, and we wanted to keep that alive.
Well, go and get cracking on the third one now, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.